everybody. This is Doug, and you're listening to What's the Hazard? It is Friday, August 18th. And I'm guessing in the pool that the baby is going to come on October 29th. It's going to be a girl. Do I have to pick a time? No time. So I'm in for, what is it, $20 or what's the...
Yep.
All right, I'm in, definitely.
So yes, Jay Petrie's in. We got, some other safety professionals
Nice.
we picked up, and yeah.
We're looking forward to it.
Yes.
Well, welcome everybody. I hope you had a good week. Thanks for listening. I've got two guests in the studio. Very excited. It's been a minute since I've had this guy in the studio, Marc McClure. If you're in this region of the country, if you've been involved in safety, you know Marc. He's been doing it for as long as I have, man, which is like an eternity.
Getting on 30 years now.
The good news is he brought Katelyn Shears with him, and there is some family resemblance, although the surname is no longer the same, but it appears the eyes give it away to me. Is that true?
Yeah.
Have people said that before?
Yeah.
This is your daughter?
Yes.
And she is part of the company.
She is.
Riskill
Is
the new company?
Yes.
Fantastic, man. I was so excited to hear that. You have teamed up with our buddy Ted Summer.
Right.
You've got other partners, perhaps, or just the two of you?
Just the two of us at the moment.
Okay.
Danny Runn is with us too. We'll call Danny a partner too.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So,
I'm so glad you guys are working together. For the audience, these are two of the premier safety people in this part of the country, and I'm really excited. You guys have been working together for a while. And this is a big deal.
Our
man.
connection started with you, remember?
Well, back in the day.
I knew Ted. I've known Ted for, 12, 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him at Faith Technologies.
Mm-hmm.
He was opposite me at Faith, electrical contractor, and I was at IES. And then 8 years ago, we ended up doing some work for him up at Sioux City.
Yes, we did.
And you and I was telling her yesterday, you and I drove up there, and then Ted and I just stayed connected. He left that role as a corporate safety with that company, decided to get out on his own. Last year, we kind of looked at this and said, hey, we're doing the same thing. We're always collaborating together. We share the same material, teach the same way. Let's put it together. So we have Riskill. Our name comes from, we are going to help you manage your risk by helping you build skill in your employees.
I love that.
So we like to think we're full-blown safety shop. We can come in, help with assessments. We reach out to a great industrial hygienist. I know if you're really desperate, if I got to have somebody hump pumps all day long in the 90-degree heat around the plant, I can't think of
who wouldn't want to do that themselves.
I can't think of anyone that would enjoy doing that more and watching me watch them sweat than my old buddy. But
no, I think this is a great match, and I just want to say you two are as good at trainers as there are. I've watched you both train. I've trained with both of you. The training is exceptional. I really love the relevance of the training that you give. It's not the standard canned OSHA crap. No. This is hands-on, real-world training, and I really appreciate that.
We took a deep dive into the ANSI standard, the OSHA Z490 standard, and that standard is about how we teach safety to adult learners. And it really, you think back, and my daughter here, we sent her off to UNL. She got a teaching degree. She started looking at some of the things we were doing, and we started comparing it. And making everything relevant is what you have to do to get yourself in the door. To keep coming back, you have to make it worth something to that person out there on the floor. They have to enjoy it, and they have to go sell you again.
No question.
So we do hands-on confined space. We have our trailer set up so that we can do that. We can actually make entries. We're working on another trailer for that. We do hands-on in the fall protection world. We've got a lot of great things there. We utilize Jay Petrie as one of the gentlemen we utilize to help with that one.
Damon's former partner.
Mark Damon's former partner. Yep.
Excellent.
And of course, Jeff Springer.
Do you have anything hands-on for 70E?
Yes.
Are we going to talk about that at some point? Because that would be really interesting. I've been to a few plants that have developed training cells, basically, where they have pieces of their equipment that they have set up for hands-on type of training. I really love that.
One of our good clients is a Hy-Vee over out of Des Moines now. And we work with Hy-Vee on their manufacturing side, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with them at their different plants to make sure we're specific with what they're doing. But a couple of things that we're doing there with 7D is we do teach a class with a company. We will work with a company. This isn't like I'm just coming in for one day. So, please sit down as I show you the fee, but we'll help you and your maintenance staff develop what the criteria is to become a qualified person as recognized by 7D. So we do have a couple of our devices that we put out in tabletop exercise with that allows you to troubleshoot and perform putting a device into an electrically safe condition. And we can do that safely on a desktop. We're not putting you in front of 480 volts or anything like this, but kind of think of the old doctor game, and we're moving the
operation. Oh yeah, man, I love that. In fact, that's a great analogy for a simulation.
Yeah, and so we're doing some exercises. We can set up over 1,300 different exercises with our device, and then allow you to, test and verify to get yourself to that electrically safe condition. And that's one of the big things with 7D and some of the changes that's came. And the more we can get guys hands on, unfortunately we still have fatalities in electrical. And right now, in my mind, it's because we do a really crappy job of test and verification.
That's interesting. And you said something that really resonates with me, man. And I guess as a consultant, this sounds a little bit self-serving, but your comment about we don't just come in and do a canned training course. I need to come in and understand what it is you do and try to understand what it is you need. And in order for that training to be useful, you can't just say, come in here and do this training. And I walk in blind and I do a canned, maybe from the OSHA outreach program, which is fine. That's fine, but it's not useful. No. So it's always frustrating to me too when employers balk at the idea that I need to be there before the training to understand.
I have what we do is we like to come through and perform an assessment. We always ask and try to get a definition of scope, and the problem is of course we're not sure what we're reaching for. Safety, productivity, production, maintenance all has to know and understand how we're going to come together and collaborate to make this happen. And so we'll use the 7D. If you want to have qualified people under what the standard directs us to do, they have to be able to perform a number of specific tasks and have specific knowledge specific to the equipment in your plant. You may be a journeyman electrician, 20 years experience, and you're working at, the ABC company making widgets. Tomorrow you go across the street to the DEF company. You are no longer a qualified person because you do need that specific knowledge of the specific equipment and tasks that you work on.
That's a great comment.
The problem is maintenance doesn't see their life that way. They're running to the next fire and doing a number of different tasks. We hardly ever see just a electrician anymore on a maintenance staff.
Right.
We're putting skill in everyone, which is fine. We just need to make sure we're doing it the right way. And so we kind of help set that up, and then we come back and help with some follow-up testing, coaching, and kind of give them a vision of what looks like next, and put something in place that can last for them.
I love that. And I know you guys do a great job of it, man. So when you told me you and Ted were collaborating, I was really happy to hear that. And we will do work together, and you can provide those expertise to my clients and vice versa. I mean, I really love the collaborative nature of safety, at least in our community.
And we've chosen to, Ted and I both have a passion for electrical safety and 7D. We both have that background. I go back with electrical safety and 7D to 1997. And here in Omaha, I come to town and I went to the council, and Bob Lamastro was teaching the class, the safety professor, safety wizard. And, give a shout out to Bob. Wonderful mentor. And here we are all these years later. And who was a mentor in Ted's background? Bob Lamastro.
Is that right?
Yes.
You're both from the same tree.
Yes. And so we both had that kind of mindset as we went. Bob's uncle or Bob's nephew used to actually be a direct safety employee of Ted's at Faith Technologies. So we both had that kind of passion to develop good training, use pertinent information. We looked last year at the Z490 standard and said, we need to understand this. We need to change what we're doing. Get past the paradigm of how we feel and really look at that, because that's how we can teach adults. Mm-hmm. So we keep them hands-on, we keep it interactive. We do a number of different exercises hands-on. We've got the whole route. We have a number of toys to play with, and
I love that.
I'm up to 3 storage lockers, and my
I can see it.
My wife says it's hoarding, and I'm like, but honey,
that's right.
Just because these guys gave me 4 broken chain falls, this is going to be a better,
right.
rigging class.
That's exactly right.
She's like, really?
Thank you.
You need 4?
Mm-hmm.
What, 1 broken one wasn't enough?
Right. I love that. Well, Katelyn, thank you for being here. I know we've met before. Your father explained the times we've met in the past, but it's been a while.
Long time.
And welcome. It's nice that you're taking care of him, obviously.
Trying my best.
You're with the company.
Yeah.
And you have a number of different roles. How long have you been working with the company?
I've been working with him since last July.
Fantastic.
And then I didn't join Riskill until January this year.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. And you've already ascended to director of Marc and Ted, I'm sure. Director of HR, director of scheduling, and all of the other
creative content.
Very nice.
Client engagement.
Yep.
And still do a number of things. We were in town working with a couple of attorneys on a couple of things yesterday. She's really picked up on that for me. Nice on some investigation and then knowing and understanding, how we get to the basis of fact and something to be able to assist them and their clients.
I love that. But you were a teacher by education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, an English teacher for high schoolers or middle schoolers.
Oh, good for you. No kidding. So that's why your father is speaking in complete sentences now.
Yes.
And
your influence is very apparent.
And just go ahead, ask her ask her what she thought her first job was going to be.
What was that? You going to teach somewhere, or what were you going to do?
Are you talking from when I was in kindergarten?
Yeah.
I was going to work at IMS with Dad.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was going to do pet food.
Oh, really?
Well, yep. She'd go in with me in the morning.
Of course.
When I would take care of the plant, she'd help me run, when I'd have to do my environmental sampling off water and things.
Oh, yeah.
She'd help me play in the lab.
You'd be out in the rain taking stormwater samples and things.
I don't really remember that part. I think the only part I remember from our trips is going to get breakfast and donuts, to be honest, and bringing that back to everybody. So I thought that was the best part of working at IMS.
I do have one quick IMS story about her and her sister. So show up out there one Saturday morning, and I had a 20-minute class, and then I had to go to the floor. So I left her and her sister in my office with my computer playing on it. Half an hour later, I'm back, and they are gone. Mm-hmm. And so I go to find them, and they are now in my plant manager's office, because my plant manager had 2 computers, and she sent me a note saying, Mark, you can't leave 2 little girls to entertain themselves
with one
if
computer.
You don't have enough computers. So from now on, they'll be in my office.
Oh, that's fantastic. I remember that plant manager, actually.
Yeah, Kathy, she was pretty nice.
So this is off subject a little bit, but this comes up in conversation periodically, and you shared with me many, many years ago a concept that you referred to as start work authority, where you guys would gather prior to initiating work for the week at the facility, and you would go through a start work process. Yep. Can you describe that a little bit? So everybody's familiar with stop work.
Yes.
Right. And to some degree, that's a useful concept, but I like the start work concept.
So what we did was operations manager Don Cornett, Don, wonderful man, Army background, West Point guy, retired as I think brigadier general and things. And he came to me and said, what we really need to do to really, so everybody knows and understands how this plays together and how, the cohesiveness of safety and production have to go together, is I want you to be able to give me a right to run. And the right to run was on Monday morning, I should be able to find everything that I need. Everything should be up to date every Monday morning. I should have all my inspections completed. Anybody that was assigned any training in the last week, you had a week to get it done. Don's attitude was, my people need to manage themselves and their time to make these things happen. And so anything that was due safety, we had process safety. So we had a number of daily checks that had to be performed. Of course, Title V air permitting, I had air, wastewater, stormwater, all the things. I had it all. And every Monday morning, we would go and we would meet the plant management group, the leadership team. And the first question would be, Kathy would look at me and ask me if she had the right to run the plant. Can we start work? And if we didn't have anything completed, if something was missing, forklift inspections, we didn't start the plant until those were completed. And you just get them to me. We'll work on what happened that we didn't get them on another day. And so every Monday we would have this exercise, and everybody kind of got in a rhythm. Things looked great. And one morning Don came to me and he told me, he says, "I'm already been here and been through your paperwork, and we're going to have an issue today. You're going to be short some things, and first time you're ever going to get to exercise this, but you are going to tell her that no, she doesn't have the authority and the right to run. Mm-hmm. And I want my people to take care of it. So, don't you go running out the door to solve a problem. It's a problem on my side." And it did. You could just see everybody. It's like, is she really not going to start the plant? We're going to shut down and not run this plant. I mean, we have 100 trucks a day to ship. Mm-hmm. And we did. We stopped. Wow. We got the problem taken care of. And we moved on. And after it happened, I mean, the three process, the make manager, the pack manager, the shipping manager, when they heard they didn't have the right to run, they turned to, it was like they were ready to tell, "Oh, you can't believe we did this." And Don was like, "Let's go fix it. Mm-hmm. You guys will all talk later. Right now, let's get it fixed. Let's get the plant running. Then we'll come back together and figure out how we ended up with an outage." Mm. And I love that. There was no pressure about it. Mm-hmm. That's what was so good, Fletch, was when this happened, I mean, everybody had to step back and say, "Man, we've been run since the plant was built." Mm-hmm. And we went from that on the plant level. Then Don wanted it taken down, that, instead of saying stop work, start work. Mm-hmm. And so we got that into the morning meetings. We got that into the evening meetings, with the shifts. Are we ready to start work? Is mm-hmm. everything done? You good today? You good today? Mm-hmm. What do we got coming up that, we got to help you that once we get started, we stay started. So it was a fantastic time for me. I mean, it was one of my best times as a safety guy. Right. Really a learning experience. And the collaboration that we brought together to make all of it happen was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And as you just said, it was a learning experience, not a blaming experience, yep. Man. And I love what Don was, let's get it fixed. We'll come back together. We'll talk about it. We'll learn something from it. And we're not going to sit around pointing fingers and blaming each other. Well, and so, as this one worked through, there was things like, well, guess what? We just found Marc's paperwork down in the lab. Somebody put it in with some quality paperwork. And these were the kind of things that happened. Our thing was, though, because they happened, we let them happen. Once we went into the right to run and start work, it was like, okay, now we don't want those mistakes either. Because if we were making those kind of mistakes, what are we missing on what we're doing with product? Right. Where's our quality really at? Are we moving that needle the right way? Right. And, again, if you're not paying attention, you're putting something in the wrong file, well, then what's the next thing you're not going to pay mm-hmm. attention to? And am I going to have a slip, trip, and fall? Are we going to bump something with a forklift? There was just a number of those factors. And through it all, Don his coaching came to us as like an athlete. Mm-hmm. You may strike out this time, but I still need you to go out in the field the ball. You're going to have to shake the fact that you just bounced that basketball out of bounds. We got to get to the other end and defend. Mm-hmm. We don't have time to stop right now and chastise you and point blame. And we don't have time to stop right now and say, geez, how did you dribble the ball out of bounds? We'll work on that when we're off the floor. Mm-hmm. And so it took the pressure off of people. People knew that this we're getting called right on the carpet. We still had red light behaviors that, certainly you weren't going to get away with. We lockout, tag out, confined space, hot work, energized work. Those were all things were red light behaviors that we would stop and address. But we just were looking part of lean, get waste out of the system. And then just make sure everybody knew and understood that, the teams that win 100 games a year and go to the championship aren't the teams that are putting files in the wrong place.
Right.
You got to do the little things. So,
and those things, those are just downstream manifestations of that deficiency somewhere upstream in the operational process. So sometimes it turns up as a quality issue. Sometimes it's a safety issue, whatever that might be. It's not necessarily just a deficiency in safety. It's a deficiency in at some level of operational management that just shows up downstream that way.
You bet. And this is another thing that really helps Ted and I, because we, with the kind of backgrounds we come from and those kind of things, as we go in and work with organizations, we can see other things they're struggling with. And so we don't want them to be struggling with us and how we do our job. And so it brings out some really good things. It really does.
I think it kind of reinforces with the employees as well that the importance of what we're doing sometimes. If they can see that it's more than that, the expected canned program, that there's been some thought and some time and it's useful, I think that's encouraging to employees. I think that motivates them to some. The vast majority of employees that I deal with want to do a good job. They want to be motivated. They want to be excited about work to the extent that they're able.
Exactly.
And if you just give them a bunch of shit, they just roll their eyes.
And trust me, they know what shit looks like.
Absolutely. They've seen it. They've been dealing with it.
So we just had a client here a few months back, and they had a young safety guy, and he made the comment to us that, half the plant would be engaged and half wouldn't. And he said, you just got to understand. He said, there's just about half these guys just want to come in, do their job, get their check on Friday, and go home. And they don't. There's no other involvement in work. Okay, I get that. And I'm really surprised it's as high as 50%.
Yeah, I was going to say, that seems like a high number to me.
But, I think it was because the way they were trying to engage them wasn't the way that these people needed to be engaged with. And so that's one of the things that the Z490 standard points out. And it gets back into human behavior and some things like this, HOP programs, all those things that I've had a finger in for a few years. So again, I got an understanding. I get where that's coming from. And it just makes it so interesting. And all of a sudden, guess what? That wasn't a 50% number. Yeah, you got a couple of guys in each class, and I know not leaving with everything. But the most of them, if I can make it interactive, if I can make it interesting, if I can relate a story from my past, or share a story, I share your stories too, of course.
I do.
I take credit for them.
No, I do the same thing, man. Well, they know if it's electrical, they know it's not my story because I don't know anything about electrical.
I always share the story, one of your stories from going out on one of your first runs to Western Nebraska and having to try to find a payphone at the middle of the night and know where to call in your report.
Right. And half the audience is payphone. What the hell are they talking about?
But no, that's kind of really the big thing when it comes to teaching. And that's the other thing is, I guess that I look at it and I try to make sure that the clients understand this. I'm looking to create teachable moments with their people, just not train. I can train lockout, tag out all day long, but if I can teach you the componentry behind it, show you what may happen, get you involved, and then we can start also looking for those other improvements. Hey, you guys are talking about this with lockout tag. Come out and look at this one machine with us. Oh, well, listen, we could help with this. We got asked to do fall protection safety competent person class with a college, and the guy told us, he says, really got to have some help. Okay, great. And I'm like, how bad do you think it is? And he goes, oh, you're going to be shocked at some of the stuff you see. We have donors that know aesthetically, I do not want handrails on top of my building, these kind of challenges to meet. It's like, okay. And he says, and the other challenge I got is we always end up low bid. So, see some pretty shoddy, interesting equipment. So Ted and I were planning this out, and Ted's like, should we try to schedule a day together to go see this? And I told him, I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'm going to make the walk. If I see something I haven't seen before or something, it's just like, oh, crap, I got to, I'm going to get you on the phone and we'll talk about it. I said, but I don't know that it's as bad as what he makes it to be. But he has nothing to compare it to. So, by the time we were done, I'm looking at him and telling him, trust me.
You're not the worst I've seen.
I've seen worse.
Yeah,
of course. I've seen worse. Now, the secret is, to solve the problem. And his problem was his guys all felt that they had shitty stuff. Okay, well, then let's teach them how to use their stuff correctly. And we'll talk about what other alternatives could be applied in the future. And we did. We brought in Jay Petrie. So Jay's covering the Iowa area right now. And, of course, Jeff's kind of moved a little south here and stuff. Otherwise, I'd have had Jeff over. But it was so good. And their guys left with, oh, well, then this isn't bad. And also they were starting to understand fall protection is not just putting on a harness. That's just fall arrest, and it's a piece. Every day I have a guardrail. And, now I'm glad to know and understand how this works. So that's kind of one of the things that we're really trying to accomplish with Riskill.
I love that, man. And so what have you done to help your father's progress? Because he's like a totally different guy since last time I saw him.
I think
you've had a large part in this, obviously.
I don't know if I really did. I think they came to me and used my teaching background to get to, I think, the bigger goal of your guys' classes, which is to not just get them engaged and teach them those good moments, but to make them teachers of themselves. Give them that power of if somebody comes in and they don't know, they know how to explain this to somebody or teach the procedure to somebody else.
Oh, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's the goal. And that's where you get that hands-on experience and that engagement from is you give them control over their information and then they know what to do with it beyond themselves.
Right. And really we ask the senior people to do that either intentionally or unintentionally. They are doing that teaching and training. And it would be nice if we equip them with some skills to do that. So
and that's what schools do, or our goal is as teachers in schools too, is you're not just in there teaching them the content. You want to give them power over their content and give them a purpose beyond just reading a book or doing some math problems. What does this have to do in the real world? So I think that's what they're doing in those classes is engaging them beyond just, this is a safety requirement you have to complete to, you're going to help somebody else in the field. You're going to be a person that's going to be held responsible for somebody else's knowledge base.
That's
instead
great.
Of just passing it off.
That's fantastic. I love that.
So a couple of things that we've applied and that she's really been a big help with is in our competent person classes for, say, fall protection and confined space, in our qualified person classes for 70E, and in our train the trainer classes, we have adapted the class to add pieces where we're looking for people to teach back to us. So now, for an example, in a train the trainer telehandler forklift, we used to do something in a day, but we're not sure, that we're getting back what we need just in one day. So we made those classes 2 days. And, when you take that out to the client that you just did it last year and he's like, but we're only here for 8 hours last year. It's yeah, but I don't know that your trainers are really, I wanted to know that they pick that up. So we follow learn, do, teach. We'll help you learn it. We want you now to help us teach a piece of this class, and then we're going to let you teach and we'll be the audience.
Right.
Present it back. Make sure they're leaving with a learning.
That's I imagine there was a little resistance at first to that.
There was, and there was
but
a couple
the companies that really get it, I'm sure, buy into that.
Yes. The nice thing, use the trainer forklift. When I leave, I'm going to give you back. If you send a half a dozen people to our class, we're going to tell you how those people did. These people all, wonderful operator, great operator, whatever that comment is. And then here's how they are, is they teach others for you. This is their strong place. Here's where we got an opportunity to help them. And, oh, by the way, we can come back. And if you really got a big question, we have somebody that knows how to teach. And we'll be glad to let you talk to her.
I love that.
And it makes them feel valued too, beyond just the purpose of going there to learn something. Now they're valued.
The participants in the class.
Yeah. They're okay, now I'm being trusted with this experience of somebody else,
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And, you can convey the importance of that to them. I think they probably, again, man, I'm sure they take a lot of pride in that. I've been chosen, I've been selected to do this. It's a big responsibility, but you're giving me the tools and empowering me. I know that's kind of cliche to say, but.
Well, we used to just, you got this, you good with that?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be successful. Thanks, man.
Right.
Out the door.
Yeah.
I got to pack up. I got to go somewhere else. Now, when we're done, they've presented back, so we've given them feedback. I had a guy who was like, I don't know how to run this machine. I can't do this slide deck. And it's like, well, you know how to run a forklift. So, here's the 15 slides that I did these steps in. Let's just go to the forklift and you talk me through them. I'm just going to hand you the slide. You can look at it, but explain it to me right at the forklift.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these guys look at that in about 5 minutes. The slide, the paper's laying over here and they're pointing, touching. And it's like, yeah, you're going to be a wonderful trainer.
Very good.
These are the things that you're doing right. And they're like, well, and you'll always get that. They've got one nugget. This happened once. It's like, man, I've never heard. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And again, it just helps them, they see the value of what they're contributing back. We get our employees engaged again. That's what we've always wanted. If we can help you with that, engaging your employees, making them do this job, taking advantage of an opportunity, we love that.
There's something interesting. I've noticed this for years, that when you do multi-day classes with people, you can see that transition. Day one is always kind of a feeling out process, and they're skeptical and they don't know you, and you can read off your cred, but they don't know, and they don't even know to trust you. So by the end of the first day, you're starting to see a little bit of
getting a bond.
You're getting a little bond, but on that second day, man, when you leave and then come back and you are back as the trainer, you are back, you're excited, you're doing it again. Then you really start to see a lot of engagement.
We did a 30-hour. We work with Des Moines Area Community College all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to what are we, the Fighting Polar Bears or whatever?
Nice. I know. Nice. I think that's Fargo.
They've got a great program.
Very good.
But we work with them all the time in a number of their locations where they're preferred safety partner. We did a 30-hour class with them at a facility there in Des Moines. So I had a large classroom. I also had access to their shop. And nobody's there. They have a welding course. They actually have an old forklift that was donated, so we could do some hands-on with the forklift. So I have 10 people in a 30-hour, and they're all management people. I had one person out of the 10 that had ever been in a fall protection harness. Only one person out of 10, and he happened to be the safety guy at a logistical company, had operated a forklift before. And we got to do that. I have my David Alley, the safety store. I'll throw another shout out. I have the scaffold model that we can build a 3-tier scaffold and everything. Again, nobody had ever done that. And they're general industry, and chances are they're never going to see a scaffold again. But boy, do we have fun when we get hands on. And then when you want to do machine guarding, to be able to walk out into a shop that you don't have to worry about shutting anything down and playing with, walking through and finding hazards. By the 5th day, these guys would have signed up for a couple more because it just being interactive and getting it moving, getting them up, it brings that bond and that trust together really fast.
Yeah, I really enjoy that too. I'm not an authorized trainer any longer, so I can probably say this without any fear of some type of retaliation from the training center. But when I would do 30s, that 4th day was always a field trip. We would always go out into the facility, whether it be a construction site or the plant. Even if you could do that periodically on each day, just to get out of your seats and get out into the air, into the facility in some fashion, and just walk around and look and talk about different things. And it was an opportunity for them to share some of their experiences. And I know that's a hard thing to capture in the paperwork, but it's invaluable.
Yep.
And it's fun.
Yes.
Particularly for those people that may not have that opportunity all the time.
We had people from the Des Moines airport that operates the Des Moines airport. We had a logistical company. We had a gentleman from a food company. We had 4 people from a paper box manufacturer company. And all, like I said, all of our people were management. And so like we were in the welding shop. They had no idea what a welding oven looked like, how it functioned, why we would do it, So just these little things they were picking up, but just a lot of fun. again, by the end of the second, third day, they were like, oh, we're going to have to go back and look more at that standard because this is what we want people doing. We see why,
right.
The online stuff is failing us.
Oh, no doubt.
And so that's, and that's not going away. That's my competition. But I'm not playing against that competition.
Yeah, it's not competition, man, truthfully.
Well, I mean,
that's just a choice. That's a decision they've made.
But it takes from what we could do. But I'm not trying to, we've got it too. We are happy to help you and build a system with that. We offer compliance as a service. But our bread and butter is getting us up in front of your people. Right. I tell everybody, I know I might be a little expensive and everything, but you're going to love what we do. We're going to get you out of your seat. We're going to get hands-on. We have a hands-on fire extinguisher. We bought, we have one of the old Bullock's Lion systems. We've turned that into gone from a training event to a competition event. I'll send you some pictures. We actually, our different clients, we have little statues made now. And it's not just about the speed of putting out the fire. I mean, we're quizzing you while you're doing it. You got, we got a five question quiz before you get to step up on the firing line. Yeah. So we get some interaction again, and it ends up becoming kind of a competition. Everybody has fun, and like right now, I've got 3 companies that want us during October because of Fire Week. It's like, geez, do we bite the bullet, buy one more of these? Because it has become such a big thing.
Oh, good for you, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get you in front of a bunch of my clients too. I think that they would really enjoy that.
We would love to do
Outstanding.
that. We'd love to do that.
So how much time we've got? We got a little bit of time left. You have always been my go-to 70E guy. You've always taken care of that for me. We've done some 30 hours and you handle that for me. And you mentioned that in the beginning. Talk a little bit about some of the changes and what's going on with 70E.
So 70E has been one of my passions. Going back again from Bob Lamastro, I was very fortunate. When I was with IAMS Procter & Gamble, I had Brad Polinsky, who excellent 70E. Premier. If I ever know a tenth of what Brad knows, very good. David James. I worked with a number of good people. I had some really great opportunities. Some friends, Scott Francis from over in Milliken and Derek Sang at Bulwark, all guys that helped me learn about things. So we've always had a class. Ted and I kind of brought our 2 classes together now, and we try to teach similar content. But we're excited. So the new 2024 70E is out. Been released, came out a little over a month ago. Earliest release ever. The first 70E edition came out in 1979. We're on our 13th. And every time we take a few steps, I can tell you that, our focus for what's next becomes more on point.
Okay.
Early days of 70E, just for those that don't know, was where the lockout tagout standard came from. That was the first thing that 70E recognized. And honestly, the 1970s and 1980s, there was a large acceptance in the business world of, electricity, we don't see it, we don't recognize what's really energized, deaths will happen. We've changed that. Fatalities in electrical are down over 50% in the last 30 years. And I think that, 70E's played a great part.
Yeah, I would agree.
One of the things with 70E is we kind of have to flip our hierarchy of controls a little bit, because before I can get you to the elimination of hazardous energy, I still have to put you in personal protective equipment, because for you to perform your verification, you may be in front of energized electrical. And so I still need to be protecting you from shock and arc flash. 70E focused on our clothing. It got better. We went from just an FR fire-resistant clothing to an FR-AR arc-resistant rating too. So not only will the clothing self-extinguish, but we don't want the clothing to break open and expose the underlying layers of the body. We did that. We got an energized electrical permit. We got that. We got pre-planning. That became part of the standard in 2014, 2015. We put in the human factor. 70 recognizes even my best employee could have a bad day, and even my most experienced, most technically qualified person can make a mistake. 70 says those happen. We have to consider it. So we do. The big changes for this year, the biggest one for me is over the last 20 years, the thing that, the elephant in the room is still the equipment. And everybody needs to know and understand something. So our maintenance staffs at all of our businesses, we hire them to keep the machines running.
Mm-hmm.
We do nothing with the electrical componentry. Our switchgear, where our feed enters the plant, our distribution panels, all of these devices, motor starters, MCCs, all of these. We don't focus on the service and how we maintain them.
Mm-hmm.
So the big change this year is the standard NFPA 70B. How do we maintain electrical equipment has always been a recommendation, a should, and as of this year, it's a shall.
Mm.
And what 70B is about is it says that if you have machines, electrical equipment, switchgear, whatever it may be, distribution panels, whatever your equipment is, motor starters, it needs to be maintained to the manufacturer specification by qualified personnel
Mm-hmm.
and maintained to run normally. And we've started really, Doug, to define normally.
I was just going to ask you what that meant.
So one of the problems we've had, and just real quick, so one of the things that I like that they've added is we've actually added the wording electrical equipment into how we word this. So everybody knows and understands we're not dealing with your press,
The equipment.
or your
Right.
bagger. We're talking the electrical gear. And normal operation is it's running.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to get a mindset of what is normal. Normal is this. Normal now is defined by 70E as what I just said. Installed to the manufacturer specification, used as the manufacturing and your engineering firm that put it in place intended it to be used, and it is maintained to what the manufacturer says. And I go into plants all the time, and you know these stories. I have a client that I'm in their plant. They do not do anything for electrical safety. And I look at them and I tell them, the contamination you have in all of your devices is either conductive dust because they work metal, or it's combustible dust from your packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys just like, aha moment. Well, we never thought of that. Yeah. You guys are putting together two things that if we were the bad guys, it's what we'd want to have when we get to building an IED,
Mm-hmm.
and you happen to have some right here on your wall. This is why the gear that we put you in to work safely looks like bomb gear.
Mm-hmm.
So the mindset has to become, when the machine is not running, it is not normal. Now, if I operate a circuit breaker, if I reach up on a wall and I turn a circuit breaker off, and we perform maintenance on the equipment we were to perform maintenance on, we verify we have no power, we lock it out, we do our task, and I flip that breaker back on, that is normal operation. That's what it's there for, and we just operated it normally. But if that breaker trips under a load, I just can't come to the mindset of, well, I'm going to just go flip that breaker. Because if it was a normal, what the standard says is, I should be in protective gear because I'm not in a normal condition.
To reset that breaker.
And people are like, so you're telling me I have to do this? No, what I'm telling you is, if you have an abnormal, non-routine condition, you need to do an extra piece of investigation to decide yourself what we're going to do next to protect you. Because there is something wrong. We bought this machinery to run. If it's not running, it is not normal. And I've told people for years, when you open up a piece of electrical equipment, you're about to meet every electrician that's ever worked on it. From the electrician at Square D Schneider, whoever built the enclosure and put the componentry together, to the electrical engineer who tuned it, designed it, decided how many cycles we're setting breakers and things at in this machine. all of those to every person that's ever serviced it.
Mm-hmm.
You're about to know how good of an electrician they are. Were they having a good day or a bad day? Did we stay out late the night before when I was in there wiring on that? Was I thinking about my impending divorce? My kid is sick. I had a bad night with the baby. All of these things play a factor in what's in that box now.
Yeah.
And even a mistake made 20 years ago, today is the day that mistake's going to come out at you and get you in trouble.
Yeah.
So we're working to change that mindset. My biggest thing about this is I hand people 70B. First of all, nobody knows what it is. And second of all, so I have Lennox as a client. Their plant in Marshalltown was hit by a tornado. We've got nice 2-year-old gear, and they have every owner's manual, and we're there. We've got it right. But then I go to my client with 50, 60-year-old stuff, and it's like they're
that stuff doesn't exist.
But my machine's running. Okay, your machine's running, but here's the thing. Over the last 50 years, did you do all the proper maintenance? And was the proper maintenance done by a qualified person? No. Okay, well, then we better take a breath, step back, think about it before we open this box, because we're not in the definition of the normal equipment was installed correctly, maintained correctly. So you already took that out. So we're not normal when we open this box.
That's an interesting concept. And I am just vaguely familiar with B and the maintenance requirements because it's come up in conversation with some maintenance people that I deal with periodically. And that concept of, have we done regular maintenance as prescribed by the manufacturer on this equipment? What even disconnects and stuff, right? I mean,
yes,
they're all under that.
You bet.
There's all energy behind that door on that disconnect.
If you have a knife disconnect, are you maintaining a manufacturing spec? Manufacturer spec may say, we open this up annually. We de-energize it. We open it up. We clean, make sure it's contaminant free, corrosion free, lubricate and manipulate the switches. That means flipping the switch, applying a little bit of grease on the knives, flipping that switch. That's what we're looking to do. I've gone to places where, we've looked at 400 amp breakers and said, we can't throw the switch.
Yeah. And that comes up in conversation a lot when you have operators and maintenance people living and intersecting in that same world and different criteria for each. I mean,
we didn't hire the maintenance people to maintain the electrical equipment. We hired them to keep the press running, keeping the bagger running.
Yeah.
And we bring in contractors. I know and understand that. And, trust me, we know they're qualified people too. But again, what was the level? Did we do it to every piece of equipment? There's so many things like that we have to run through.
Really interesting.
So 70 is starting to address all this. We're still doing a crappy job with testing and verification.
Yes, we are.
Still kill people because they put the wrong meter on the wrong thing. And I believe that will be what we see the focus the next 3 years.
Yeah, we have the ability to do this well. I mean, with the technology, with the equipment, the PPE, all of these things, we should be able to do this safely.
Yes.
And so we just need to incorporate these practices and principles and come to a better understanding of what is intended.
Yes.
I think so that we can do it more safely because it's there for us. We don't have to have people die from
exactly right
these issues any longer.
Exactly right. And it, the thing that I see is we've picked off things that have been, I can go back to 2003. We were getting better clothing. Then we got into, really what's the conditions for a permit. Then we started working on, the pre-task plan. We still see 3 reasons that we kill people with electricity in the workplace. Even if we pre-plan it, we extended the scope of the work we're doing. God, I'm right here. I'm going to go ahead and do this, but it wasn't part of my original plan.
Well, there is a pre-planning and then there's the execution, and they're not always the same thing.
Correct. So we still overextend the scope of the work that we had planned for. We do a bad job of testing and verifying. We set a meter to, we take and put 1,000 meter on a 2,300 volt feed. We take a 1,000 volt meter and put it on 2,300 volt feed.
Mhm.
We have our setting wrong. We're set on ohms instead of amps. Whatever it is, we still do a bad job of test and verification. And then the last one is, and this is still the biggest cause of fatality and severe injury, is even with qualified, licensed journeyman electrician people, is we failed to recognize all of the conductors that are energized, or all of the componentry that's energized. And again, we've done a bad job in our pre-plan on places. But I think those will be the things that we work on next.
Interesting.
Adding the human factor to me was a big thing.
Yeah.
Getting people to execute it.
Denying it for so long, I think, is the shame,
Yeah.
I think we're coming to terms with the fact that mistakes are going to happen, and how are we going to recover from a mistake?
You bet.
How do we absorb that without having a big problem?
Yeah. Too bad. Just a sad moment, but I was honestly teaching a class a week ago, Tuesday morning, and while the class was going on, about an hour into it at State Center, Iowa, a young man, journeyman, 13 years with the utility, was electrocuted.
Oh.
And he touched a conductor that they had not identified as energized.
Mm-hmm.
And, here's somebody that was experienced. Here was somebody that went to work, family, of course, children at home, wife at home. But how they got there was a failure to recognize and isolate one piece of energized gear or conductor.
Yeah.
And we have to take into account people can make mistakes. So what are we doing? Should have they had another blanket? I don't know. I'm not going to get into those details.
Right.
But again, something was missed by a very experienced person.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Guys, we are running up on the time, almost to the minute. Cam, time is up. Time is up. All right. This is fantastic. I am really thrilled that you could take a minute, stop and see us.
We'll come back again.
I hope you come back.
We'll bring her back sometime, maybe here in November, and see how close you were and if you won the pot.
That sounds great. And for those of you who maybe joined us late or got in the beginning of the conversation and didn't realize, Katelyn is expecting, and we're looking at October 29th, I think is what we've agreed upon, right? For the induction date. Okay, fantastic. Marc McClure, Katelyn Shears. The company is Riskill. And
we got you a shirt with a name on it.
It'll be on the show next week.
Perfect.
It's fantastic. It is great to see you, man. I know that you're busy and I'm busy, and we don't cross paths as often as we used to, but we're out there, humping and trying to make things a little better.
Yep.
So I've always appreciated that. I would love to see you in front of some of my clients too, because what you just described is something that they need to hear as well. So let's make it happen
and do it.
I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you need to get a hold of Marc, or you are looking to get a hold of Marc, how do they do that?
Marc at riskill.net. The company, and riskill.net.
All right, fantastic.
Reach out. Reach out to us. My chief engagement officer here will certainly direct your call to me, and
excellent.
We'll take care of it.
Direct your call. I love that. I constantly get complaints that my voicemail is full.
Yeah, well, I do
and it's been full since 2017. So
so's mine. I don't.
It's not changing.
You know me. I'm the same as you. I get to the phone calls when I get to them. Text me if you need me.
Yes.
Email me, and
I'll check those in the evening. Text me if you need me right now on the phone.
I do the Doug Fletcher safety management class. That's how I learned it.
Right.
You taught it to me. I'm practicing it.
Well, hey, man, there's a hierarchy of everything. So thank you, guys. Great to see you. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great weekend. And I hope you have a great week next week. And we'll be back next Friday. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.